First time on the purple track for many of these athletes because it's the first time that the Olympic track is purple and they're doing it for aesthetics so that it looks nice in the pictures there. But to look at the first week that South Africa has had, we are joined now by Manfred Seidler, who is an athletics analyst. There's been a mixed bag of results for Team South Africa. I wonder how Manfred is looking at it. Good evening from us, Manfred. Thank you for being back on SABC.
Good evening, and thanks for the invite. You can see I'm wearing a purple top in celebration of the purple track.
Yeah, matching with the purple track. Maybe let's start there on the track. Our three boys in the 100 meters are through to the semi-finals. Obviously, Akani has a lot of expectations on his shoulders. What did you make of his heat and how he won it?
Look, he came through really well. He came through very strong. A mate of mine, and I'm pretty sure that you all know who he is, Lindsay Parry, the triathlon coach, and also a running coach. But he's in Paris, and he saw Akani and was a couple of days ago, and he said Akani's got that look, and he says, when you get to spend so much time with athletes, you get to learn and to know that look, and he says he's got it. So, time will tell. He's always been the bridesmaid, and every time he goes into the Olympics or World Champs, he is convinced and really believes that he's coming back with a medal. The self-belief is there. He has looked really good throughout the season, but I think it's going to take. His start wasn't the greatest, and and that's been a weakness of his for quite some time. He always comes through very strongly. If he can get the start sorted, I think he could well be in with a chance for a medal. But it's going to be hard. I mean, there's Noah Lyles, there's Fred Curley, there's Tebogo Letsile, there's
Omanyala.
Omanyala, let's not forget him. And then of course there's also the Jamaican,
yes, Thompson,
who's the fastest in the world right now. And it's a tall order, but I think, the key right now is he's in the semi, so he must focus on the semi, and that goes for Sean as well as for Benjamin. Must focus on the semi, execute well in the semi, and then worry about the final in the final. You take it race by race. He's got the experience. So look, I mean, he's got to fancy his chances. Yeah. He does have to get a good start though. This field is loaded. By anything going wrong in the semis, you're going to have all the big guns in the final, and just the slightest of misstep, and that's the difference between a medal and a fourth or a fifth.
Another hopeful is in the 800 meters, Prudence Sikhodiso. We saw her win in the Diamond League earlier this season. She looked comfortable to finish in the top 3 of her heat. Is it realistic to expect a medal from her, or are we putting too much pressure on her at this stage?
I think Prudence is ridiculously talented, and I honestly believe that the Olympics probably came a year too early for her. I think if the Olympics were next year, and she had an extra year to mature, to grow, to get experience, I think she'd be a serious threat. Right now, getting into the final is priority number 1. Remember, at World Champs last year, she stumbled and fell. And, getting into the final is the objective and the achievement. I reckon if she gets a 5th and even a 4th, that would be absolutely phenomenal. And I think, in terms of a medal, there are ladies in there that are running 156 low. Her best is a 157 high. And the likes of Gemma Reekie is not going to sit back and wait for people to take it out. She is by far the strongest and the fastest. And I think she'll dictate the race. Not something that Prudence likes. She likes to go to the front and she likes to dictate. And I think she's going to find that very difficult when she gets into the final.
Yeah, an interesting one, though, is Wade van Niekerk competes on Monday in the 200 meters, having been pulled out of the 400 meters. What kind of a Wade van Niekerk are you expecting this time around?
I think... Look, there's been a lot of speculation about, he's in the 400 and he pulled out of the 400 to do the 200. Then it's the case of, will he be in the relays? Will he not be in the relays? In all honesty, I think and he'd probably disagree with me, but I think the injury to his knee has hampered him, and he hasn't ever really gotten back to that shape that he was before that injury. And the heats of the 400s would probably have been a little bit more taxing. So he probably fancies his chances to get into the final in the 200 are better because he's not running as far as he would be in the 400, which is ridiculously hard. I mean, it's the lactic acid when you hit that last 100 meters and you see the athletes' buttocks start dropping. And they turn around. The commenters like to say they're wading through treacle. You won't necessarily experience that as much on the 200 meters. So I reckon he fancies his chances of getting to the final in the 200 meters are higher. And I also reckon that he then also fancies the fact that he will be fresher going into the relays. And he's a very, very key and vital component to a relay, whether it's in the 4x4 and the 4x1. He plays a very significant role.
Yeah. And last night we saw a thrilling 10,000-meter race, Manfred. I've never watched 25 laps in a row and been glued to the TV like that. Won by Joshua Cheptegei of Uganda, but South Africa's Adam Wilskert finishing 10th. But that's half the story because he smashed his own South African record. What did you make of that performance?
Adrian is like Prudence, is ridiculously talented. He is, and in particular in the last 2 years, how he's come along and smashed 5,000 records, 10,000 records, 3,000 records. He's consistently beaten those records. I reckon down the line he'll be an incredibly good marathon runner. We'll have to wait and see if and when that happens. But that was a really, really good race. I mean, he stuck with the big guns all the way until the bell lap, and only when Cheptegei threw down the gauntlet, did he start to lose touch with the leaders. That was a really, really good performance by him. And, I think he's got major, major talent. 2028 is really interesting to see what he does. Maybe by then he is, in fact, already running the marathon. I do believe he'll be a great marathon runner. But he may decide, 10,000 is my game, and I'll focus on that in the next 4 years. But you can't ask more from him than to smash his personal best, which he did, which is also the South African record. But to have 13 athletes go under the previous Olympic record, look, the Ethiopians did that. I mean, they went out. Yeah. They went out blistering, guns blazing, 63 second laps, 63, 63, 63, and invariably they were going to blow up. And you could see, at the end, only Arigawi was able to really come through. And one wonders, this Arigawi had the same problem that Cheptegei had at the last Olympics, where he went too early and he went too late and he got out kicked. Arigawi, if he had gone a little bit earlier, who knows? I mean, he was finishing incredibly fast, as was the American. Yeah. So it wasn't a done deal when Cheptegei was on the home straight and pulling away. I think he had something left in the tank and would have been able to surge again. But they were chasing him down. It was a good race. It was a phenomenal race. I hope you've been converted now to middle and long distance running.
Definitely. But I was surprised by Carl Blichner not making the final, having been in the final in Tokyo 2020. Did that surprise you also?
Carl has been struggling a bit for the last couple of years. I mean, he hit really, really good high distances in Tokyo and also the year after. But since then, the last 2 years or so, he hasn't been at his best. I'm not sure what's not ticking. But again, he's another one of those, and I like the phrase, ridiculously talented athletes. He really should be pushing 21 mid to 21 high, and that would get him not just into a final, but would be challenging for a top 5. He is better. He's a much better athlete than what he's been delivering in the last 2 years. So I think as much as we are saddened and maybe a little bit disappointed, I can guarantee you the disappointment he's feeling right now, we have no idea.
Yeah, he did lose his coach also last year, and you don't know how that would have affected him mentally. But let's move away from track and field a little bit. We heard from Tatiana Smith before you came on. She's now announced her retirement from swimming there. Where does she take her place here in the list of the greatest swimmers that we've had in South Africa? Because we've been blessed to have some very good swimmers.
Well, I mean, the previous greatest, if you want to call it, Penny Haynes, has literally given over her mantle as the greatest South African swimmer to Tatiana and said, that's it. She's the greatest swimmer of all time from South Africa. And that's high praise. I think, I must be honest, I was very surprised when I heard that she had announced her retirement. But we don't know the pressures or can't fathom the pressures that they're under. And I'm not talking physically. I mean, obviously, they literally torture their bodies to get to the levels that they have to train at. But psychologically, there's a huge amount of strain. I mean, I'm pretty sure that you all saw the post swim press conference with Rocco, and he couldn't say anything. And her coach, and he's come a long way with her. So that was very emotional for him. And her incredible performances both in Tokyo and now in Paris are very much because of Rocco's coaching. Obviously, she's done the work. Obviously, she's talented. You can't take it away from her. But a good coach will bring out the best in a great athlete, and he's done that. I was a bit surprised to hear that. I would have expected her to go for at least another Olympics. She's young and she is that good. But as I said, we don't know what psychological effects have been going on, what pressures she's feeling. And then maybe she just decides, you know what, I'm on a high, it's time to go. I don't want to be that athlete who keeps on trying when my best days are past. Exiting on a high is phenomenal. I mean, we remember Usain Bolt, who didn't exit on a high. And it hasn't tarnished, but it's taken away something of his, I believe, legacy of the greatest ever sprinter to set foot on the track. In the end, he was beaten. And not the way that any athlete wants to go out, I think.
On that note, though, at 27, Tatiana's retiring. At 32, Chadley Claw, who failed to make it out of the heat in his only event at the Olympics, has one eye on LA 2028. Is that a wise decision then, considering what he's achieved in the sport?
I think Chad is one of those athletes who just cannot stop challenging themselves and see how far they can push the boundaries. I mean, another one that comes to mind again is the swimmers, Roland Skuman. How many Olympics has he gone to? He's still performing at almost the highest level. Obviously, he didn't qualify for these Olympics, but as long as it's the same with Roger Federer. A lot of people were saying, why didn't you retire earlier? Why didn't you retire at the top? As long as there's a hunger and as long as there's a drive, it's very difficult for an athlete to hang up their spikes, or in this case, hang up their goggles. And then again, it depends on what are his objectives and what are his goals. Michael Phelps retired as the greatest, as the GOAT of swimming, because that's what he wanted to do. Chad may turn around and say, listen, I want to go for as long as I can. I want to be the guy who goes to 5, 6, 7 Olympics. If that's his goal, then, roll on 2028.
Well, maybe he wants another medal to end the debate on who's the GOAT between him and Tatiana, because they are locked on 4. But always a pleasure talking to you, Manfred. Hopefully we'll catch up again before the end of the games.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Manfred Seidler, looking fresh in his purple there, talking athletics. By the way, we had Tsepo Chite and Ryan Pahlele earlier today in the men's repechage for the 1,500 meters. They failed to make the top 3 in both their heats, so they don't advance to the semi-finals and have been eliminated from competition. There's a